Welcome to the 22nd Annual International Convention of TESOL Macedonia Thrace, entitled Back to Basics. And I have the great honor to have with me Mr. Andrew Wright, who is a very well-known author, illustrator, teacher, trainer, storyteller, and a lot of other things, and a personal inspiration to me. He has published many books for many great publishing houses. He has worked in 48 different countries during his 50 years.
My wife has counted them up. It's 55.
Actually, 55,
Yes.
even more. And he has worked, as he estimates, with over 50,000 students in the last 20 years. He currently lives in Hungary, where he is the managing director with his wife, Julia Dudas, of the International Languages Institute in, if I say it correctly, Godolo.
Yes.
So, welcome to our convention.
Thank you.
And I would like to start by asking you your impressions from our convention.
It's been a wonderful 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so much work goes into preparing the convention in the first place. So I'm very conscious over the months you guys and the team have been working away to get this thing off the ground. A lot of work goes into it, and it pays off. And also, you're not just efficient, but you're sort of good-willed and happy people, so it's been fun as well. So lots of good professional sharing, but a lot of fun. And we only live once, so we better have fun while we can.
I agree with you on that. Thank you very much for your kind words. Now, in your talk entitled Storying is Central in Our Daily Life, What About the Classroom? You talked about the importance of stories and the use of stories in teaching. I would like you to tell us a few things about it.
We often associate stories with children, and in one way quite rightly, because we tell stories to children. But the idea that stories are for children only is such a nonsense. And it's so obvious when you look at a television program for the evening. There are stories on all evening. But not only that, the news is told as a story. And that's not my idea, that's what the journalists say. They say the top stories today are the breaking story, the story that I'm working on. And it's not a homonym in the sense of meaning something else, not at all, because they're selecting from infinite information. They're selecting what they think we might be interested in hearing about. They will almost certainly, if they can, find a particular person, a particular protagonist to center, for example, an earthquake around. They'll perhaps show some old woman looking in the ruins of a house to find a doll's leg or something like that. So they will tell us a story. And so I think that for me is the fundamental thing. The stories are for all of us. And it's nothing to do with just a bit of entertainment. Stories are fundamental in the values, perceptions and behaviors that they show. And this is so fundamental that CNN, I think it was 2 years ago, they actually put an advertisement on the screen: the stories we bring you today are the world you will live in tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that's incredible when you think about it. That's how central stories are. Not just to engaging people, but to making them and the way they see. The food we eat makes our bodies, the stories we hear make our minds. Mm-hmm. So if you've got something which is absolutely motivating and engaging, so fundamental to who we are, and it involves words, how can it not be the highway of language teaching? Mm-hmm. So what we say in law is, my case rests.
Exactly.
Do you see what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, it's a very short moment to tell you this in, but that was the gist of my plenary.
Thank you. So, do you have any advice for the teachers who would like to use your ideas? How could they start? What could be the first stage of integrating stories in their teaching?
First thing is that we are all storytellers, and there isn't any question about that. Mm-hmm. If we can speak. In the same way that we all walk and even run to the bus. If we're going to miss it, we try to run. We don't say, oh, I'm not in the Olympic team, I can't run. I mean, it's utter nonsense. We don't say, I'm not the greatest teacher in the world's history, so I won't teach. You know, we should just, should get on and do our best. And we are all storytellers, because stories, all that stories means is telling somebody else about what we did, probably in order to try to achieve something. You have a problem, you lose your keys, I looked here and I looked there, and so on and so forth, and that is a story. And eventually I found them in my pocket. That is a story. And so the first thing that I really hope is that people have gone away from the sessions feeling, I can do it. It wouldn't be a good thing if they went away saying, gosh, Andrew is a great storyteller, I can't do it. If that were to be the end result, it wouldn't be right at all. I mean, the only justification for my being here is that I can help other people find themselves. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, stories, as far as I'm concerned, as I've shown you already, can be fact, like the news, or incidents from your own life, or they can be from history. And this wonderful area of the world, I didn't realize how rich it was until my wife and I came here a few days early before the conference to go to museums and so on. It's so rich in stories, all these wonderful stories like Bellerophon on Pegasus, trying to fly up to Zeus, and Zeus sending down a gadfly to sting the horse, Pegasus, so that he would throw off Bellerophon, and Bellerophon would tumble down through the sky, go through a thorn bush, have his eyes ripped out, break his bones on the rocks below, then spend the rest of his years crawling, blind and broken boned in the shadows of villages, begging for a crust. Fantastic stories. These are your stories. And how can you be Greek? You can be international and Greek. You can't not be Greek. You can never lose your Greekness. So you travel internationally as a Greek, then being able to tell Greek stories in English makes so much sense. One teacher was just telling me that she has a bit of a problem because she's in a touristy town, and there's quite a lot of money there, and the families are not too badly off, and so on, because of all the tourism, and the children don't seem to care very much. And I said, oh, of course, that could be good business. She said, from our seafront we can see Mount Olympus. I said, oh my God, that's incredible, the potential there. All you have to do with your teenagers is to train them all to become storytellers. And then at the weekends and the evenings, when the tourists are sitting there around the tables on the seafront, you go up to them, and the teenagers go up to them and say, that's Mount Olympus there, full of stories. Would you like to hear a story just for €1?
Nice idea.
Yes, and it's just over there that it was just over there on the lower part of that foot out there that Bellerophon was on Pegasus, zooming in and out of the clouds. And he went up and just over there on Euro. And then, but really, I can tell you, if I was sitting at a coffee table and some teenager came up to me like that, I would be enthralled by that.
Yeah,
Now, all right, in one sense it's a joke. Is it going to be that hundreds of teenagers... No, of course it's not. But what we have to look for is how can we make the classroom have open walls with life outside the classroom. Exactly. These four walls are closing off from life. So, for example, when they make stories, when they publish stories, when they write stories, they should publish them. Traditionally, everywhere in the world, everything the student does is for the teacher. Mm-hmm. Why? What position does that put the teacher in? It puts the position of the teacher of, I'm the judge. This is 8 out of 10. Oh, this is 4 out of 10. All these red crosses here, see? Next one.
Exactly.
Different relationship would be, gosh, you've done all these stories. Let's put them onto the website. Let's put them into a booklet. Let's put them, for example, on little books into the Tourist Information Centre so that tourists can take them away. And then the teacher says, don't worry, I'll help you to get them really, really good. And she changes her role. She's not the receiver and the judge, but she becomes their supporting friend to enable them to do better in the eyes of the world. A different relationship. And you say, oh, I haven't got time to do this, under such pressure. What do you mean? First of all, this is so serious that children will care about it, and then they will give you time. I remember once in a town, Klagenfurt in Austria, I was working with students on bookmaking, and a mother stopped me in the street and said, are you the man working in the school? Are you the story man? And I said, yes. She said, I've got something to tell you. I spent years of my life trying to get my son out of bed in the morning to go to school. This week he's been setting his alarm clock for 1 hour early so he can get to school to work with his group before the school starts on the book that they're doing with you, because they want to spend extra time on it.
That's great. That's great.
And
because it gives integral motivation. And
yeah,
this is...
and so when teachers say, but it takes time, but it gives them motivation, just as you're saying, so they will give you time and give you more energy and so on. It's one of the most powerful things I have to offer is this fact. At school, when I was 16, I failed my public examinations in English. Or I was failed, but I failed. I got them the second year. So I passed my English O-level the second year. And I've written, I don't know how many books for English teachers used in 200 countries. So how can it be that I failed at school? How?
That's right.
Why was I said, oh, he's a bit thick, not very bright boy? Why? It must have been because my intelligence wasn't being invited to work on material. I was just being asked for 7 years to learn everything from books, which other people had written, but I wasn't invited to work on it myself. And so my brain just closed down, said, oh, this is not serious. So my brain didn't really work at school, so I failed my English O-level.
I understand that.
So it's very, very important. There could be lots of people in the class who will come alive if the story were going on.
Exactly, and there are so many people who have to say so many stories. Let me ask you now another thing. What do you think in our times, with all this digital technology and all this, let's say, pressure to use and bring more technology into the classroom, what do you think from your great experience that the focus of education should be?
First of all, I'm very happy about technology. I love it. I'm very happy to have lived into this age of technology. My mind is a primitive one, so I find it difficult to use it myself because I'm not made. I'm made from a previous era.
No, you're not.
Well, yes, in the sense of not brought up in this way, but I love it. And it's full of storytelling. It isn't the end of story. It's released enormous amount. All these selfies that people take are all to do with creating the history of themselves. And it's just amazing. And they smile, and they look nice, or they look clever, or they look whatever it might be, because that's the story that they're telling about themselves. It's amazing to see it. It's all story making. My concern is that all sorts of incredible shallowness can be fostered by the internet because it's so easy. So, photographs of the sausage that you're eating for your lunch put onto the internet, onto these Twitter and these things, or
All the social media.
well, those sort of things. There's a lot of trivialization, unbelievable amount of trivialization is shown, and also a craving for being, well, the extreme form is going viral. I know that expression.
Yeah.
Becoming famous, and making an image of yourself instead of just concentrating. I did see a teacher here who was, while somebody was speaking, had got her laptop and she wasn't listening to the talk in any serious way. I assert, I mean, how can I know? But I assert, she was more concerned with writing down little impressions. And there are a number of things to do with technology which have their disadvantages, but that's life, isn't it? The advantages are wonderful beyond description. To finish on that, you asked about education. In the old days, up to now it has been that people should read or listen, read, remember, and regurgitate, the 3 R's. And if you regurgitate exactly what you've heard, you get 10 out of 10. If you change it a bit, you get 9 out of 10. So that idea is just a nonsense for the way society has gone. If we want information, we go to Wikipedia. Within a second, all the information in the world is there. So why on earth should we have to remember a lot of stuff? Next, change, which has always been with us. The word now is already not now. Change is so fast. Obviously what we need is people with minds that can deal with change. Countries, nations that can deal with change. Can Greece change? Can England change? Can countries change to deal with changing situations? And if you can't change your story map, and you can't change reality, you go under. That's it. Your story map and the reality you live in have to work together. When I first went to live in Hungary, the map I had was made before the motorways. And I tried using it when I was crossing Hungary, and I kept bumping into motorways. And my map, I either had to sort of get rid of the motorways by blowing them up, or buy a new map. But I decided it was easier to get a new map. So I got a map which fitted the new reality. So it works literally as a metaphor, but it works as a metaphor as well, I think, very, very much, that individuals and societies have to have a map which is open to the notion of change.
Exactly. So change is the key word here. So my final question is, do you have any wish for the members of our association?
Any wishes for them?
Yes.
Well, huge good wishes towards every individual Greek to somehow be able to find that new map which will allow all the great character of Greeks to come out. And so Greeks can live, a decent life and not be suffering economically. And in terms of dignity, personal dignity. So I wish that for Greece, incredibly. And I believe it's to do with stories. And the stories that Greeks tell themselves. And the other thing would be for individual teachers here, colleagues, would be that they would, if they're not doing it already, that they will feel confident enough to look in themselves for stories, both personal stories and traditional stories, and make those very much part of their teaching, and help the students to be able to do the same thing, so that some Greek student, when he's 20, goes to, my big daughter who is 20 is in Hanoi now, so she's a Hungarian in Hanoi. One day there will be a Greek in Hanoi, and can that Greek tell Greek stories in Hanoi? To give a feeling of being Greek. I like that idea.
I think it's the key maybe to end the solution to this problem. I would like to thank you very much for the honor and for being in our convention this year.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and not just inviting me, but as you've all done, looking after us so so very nicely.
Thank you.